My best friend demanded I lend her money for a luxury vacation because that's what friends do. When I refused, she publicly accused me of being a terrible friend and turned our entire friend group against me. She smirked and said, "Enjoy being alone." I replied, "I'd rather be alone than used." I never thought my best friend, Claire, would betray me like this. But here I am, writing this because I need to get it all out. This is the story of how my so-called best friend demanded I pay for her expensive vacation, smeared my name when I refused, and how I found out she'd been using everyone around her for years. Claire and I had been friends for almost a decade. We met in college at NYU, bonded over late-night study sessions and coffee runs, and stayed close even after graduation. Our friend group had been solid for years. There were about 8 of us, some from school, some who joined over time. We all lived in New York, busy with our careers, but still made time for each other. Group dinners, weekend trips, birthdays, Claire was always there, always the loudest, always the center of attention. She had expensive taste. Designer bags, luxury skincare, first-class flights. The problem? She wasn't exactly rolling in money. She hopped from job to job, always chasing something bigger and better, but never staying anywhere long enough to build a stable income. It didn't seem to bother her. She had a way of making things work, or so I thought. I was different. I worked in finance, put in long hours, and saved aggressively. I wasn't out here hoarding wealth, but I was careful with my money. I liked nice things too, but only when I could afford them. Apparently, Claire saw that as a personal bank account. Last summer, our group started planning a trip to Santorini, Greece. It was a dream vacation, 5-star resorts, private yacht tours, Michelin-star dining. We weren't doing it cheap. Everyone was excited, except Claire. She kept making comments about how she wasn't sure if she could swing it. That was nothing new. Claire was always tight on money, but usually, she figured something out. Then, one night after dinner, she pulled me aside. "I need you to cover my expenses for the trip. I'll pay you back later." I actually laughed at first. I thought she was joking. "Excuse me? You know I can't afford it right now. But that's what friends do. You have money and I need help. Come on, it's only fair." She said it so casually. Like it was obvious. Like I owed her. "Claire, I can't just drop thousands of dollars on a vacation for you." Her expression changed. The entitlement was unreal. "Wow, so you're that kind of person? Selfish. It's not like you don't have it." I just stared at her. "My money is my money. I worked for it." She scoffed. "You're rich. Stop acting like this would even hurt you." But fine, be that way. I was still in shock when I got home. She really thought I'd just pay for her entire luxury vacation. The next day, our group chat was weirdly quiet. I didn't think much of it until I saw Claire's Instagram stories. Cryptic posts about fake friends and people who only care about money. At first, I ignored it. Then, the messages started rolling in. "I didn't know you were like this, wow. Seriously, you couldn't even help Claire a little? Money changed you, huh?" Claire had gone full damage control before there was even any damage. She told everyone I refused to help her in a time of need. That I was hoarding money while my best friend struggled. She never mentioned that her struggle was an unpaid 5-star vacation. I tried to explain, but people were cold. Distant. Some flat out ignored me. Claire had turned everyone against me overnight. A few days later, I ran into Claire at a cafe in Brooklyn. I wasn't going to say anything, but she was already smirking. "Enjoy being alone," she said, taking a sip of her overpriced latte. Because no one likes a selfish friend. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I just said, "I'd rather be alone than used." Her smirk twitched. Just for a second. But she recovered quickly, flipping her hair over her shoulder. "Whatever helps you sleep at night." Then she walked out. I just stood there, heart pounding. She wanted me isolated. She wanted me to feel like I had no one. But Claire wasn't expecting what would happen next. After that encounter at the cafe, I started paying more attention to the group chat. At first, I wanted to see if anyone would say something, anything to defend me. But it was radio silence. The people I had known for years were just gone. Claire was good at this. She knew how to spin things, how to manipulate people. But there was one thing she forgot. Lies always fall apart when too many people are involved. It started small. One of our friends, Sarah, messaged me privately. "Hey, I just wanted to check in. Claire said some things, but I don't know. Something feels off. Did she really ask you to pay for everything?" I told her the truth. She was quiet for a moment before she replied, "That's not what she told us." Of course, it wasn't. Claire had twisted the story just enough to make herself look like the victim. She made it sound like she was struggling with bills and just needed a little help, and I, her wealthy best friend, had heartlessly refused. I asked Sarah if she had actually seen Claire struggling. She hesitated. I mean, no, but she always talks about how hard things are for her. That was Claire's trick. She planted ideas and let people assume the rest. Sarah wasn't the only one who started questioning things. Over the next week, I got messages from 2 more friends. They weren't outright apologizing, but they were curious. The cracks were forming. Claire was losing control of the narrative. And then, something happened that made everything spiral. One night, I got a call from Jason, another friend in our group. We weren't particularly close, so I was surprised. But the second I answered, I could hear the anger in his voice. Dude, did Claire borrow money from you? I blinked. No. Why? He let out a bitter laugh. Because she owes me $800. And guess what? She's been avoiding me ever since we got back from that Miami trip. Miami? That was months ago. Jason went on to explain that Claire had borrowed money from him to cover part of her rent, saying she'd pay him back in 2 weeks. That was 6 months ago. Every time he brought it up, she either gave him an excuse or ignored him completely. And he wasn't the only one. After we talked, I started reaching out to others, casually at first. But it didn't take long before the stories started piling up. $500 from Melanie for a work emergency that never got repaid. $200 from Jake because she forgot her card on a trip. Multiple dinners that she promised to Venmo people for but never did. Claire had been using everyone for years. And yet, she had the audacity to paint me as the selfish one. At this point, I had 2 choices: confront Claire privately and demand she come clean. Let the truth explode in the most public way possible. I chose the second option. I created a group chat with everyone she owed money to. Every single person who had been used, manipulated, and guilt-tripped by Claire. And I laid it all out. Hey everyone, I know Claire has been saying some things about me. But before you believe her, let's talk about something else. Has she ever borrowed money from you and not paid it back? The chat blew up instantly. People started sharing receipts, screenshots, Venmo requests, texts where Claire promised she'd get them next week, messages she never replied to once it was time to pay. It was worse than I thought. She didn't just owe hundreds, she owed thousands. And now? Everyone knew. But what happened next? That's when things got really messy. The group chat exploded with messages. Wait, she told me she paid you back. She owes me $1,200. What the hell? I knew she was avoiding me for a reason. She told me she was struggling with medical bills. Did she say that to anyone else? Medical bills? That was new. Then Jake, one of our quieter friends, dropped the biggest bombshell yet. Guys, she told me she was getting evicted. A wave of responses came in shock, disbelief, outrage. She had told different people different stories, always making sure no one compared notes. And now her lies were unraveling at full speed. I could almost imagine her phone blowing up with notifications. If she had any sense at all, she knew she was in trouble. Then Sarah sent the message that changed everything. Wait, does anyone know if she actually paid for her Santorini trip? Because I remember her saying she was working something out before we left. Silence. No one responded right away. Then Jason wrote, "What if she used someone else's money?" A few seconds later, Melanie replied. She did. Melanie, who had been one of Claire's closest friends, finally confessed. Claire had used Melanie's credit card to book part of her flights and hotel. She told me she just needed to hold the reservation on my card and would switch it to hers later. I believed her. I didn't think she'd actually let the charge go through. But Claire never switched it. The charges stayed. Melanie had confronted her about it after the trip, but Claire brushed it off. She said it was a mix-up and that she'd pay her back soon. That was 3 months ago. Melanie had been paying interest on those charges ever since. And now, she was furious. As expected, Claire panicked the second she realized people were comparing stories. She started texting everyone individually, trying to control the damage. She messaged me too. WTF is wrong with you? Why are you trying to ruin my life? I didn't respond. A few minutes later, another message. You know what? You're just jealous. You always hated when I got more attention than you. You're pathetic. That made me laugh. But while I could ignore her, others weren't so forgiving. People started demanding their money back. Sarah, who had been hesitant at first, sent Claire a Venmo request for the money she was owed and texted, "Hey, I need this back by Friday." Jason straight up called Claire out in the main group chat. You lied to us. You stole from Melanie. You owe half of us money. Either you fix this or we make sure everyone knows who you really are. But Claire? Instead of apologizing, she doubled down. She played the victim, again. She told people I was the real manipulator, that I had been waiting for an excuse to turn everyone against her. She even tried getting ahead of the credit card story by telling people Melanie had offered to help but was making a big deal out of it now just to be dramatic. It might have worked. Except she made one massive mistake. She forgot about her past lies. The final nail in her coffin came from someone I never expected, Claire's ex-boss. Claire had left her last job about a year ago. She always complained about how toxic it was and how she quit because she was too good for the place. Turns out, that wasn't what happened. I got a message from one of her old coworkers who had been following the drama through mutual friends. Dude, she didn't quit her job. She got fired for using the company credit card. I stared at the message. Are you serious? 100%. She booked a hotel in Miami on the company card. Said it was for work. They caught her, and she got fired. She barely avoided legal trouble. I couldn't believe it. She didn't just screw over her friends. She did this to her own employer. And now, she was about to face real consequences. At this point, Claire was backed into a corner. The group chat was on fire, people were furious, and the truth was out in the open. No one was buying her victim act anymore. She stopped responding. No apologies, no explanations, just silence. That lasted for about 2 days. Then, Claire did what all manipulators do when they lose control. She tried to flip the script. Saturday night, we were all supposed to meet up at a bar in Manhattan for Jason's birthday. Even after all the drama, most of the group still planned to go. Claire wasn't invited. But she showed up anyway. I saw her the second she walked in, designer coat, expensive heels, acting like nothing was wrong. She marched straight over to me. You're such a liar. The table went silent. You really couldn't just talk to me? You had to drag my name through the dirt. I set my drink down. She had some nerve acting like the victim. Talk to you? You mean like how you lied to everyone about me? Like how you stole from Melanie? Like how you left Jason hanging for months? She crossed her arms. I was going through things. But you wouldn't know that, would you? You just sit on your pile of money and judge. Jason spoke up. Stop with the excuses. You scammed us, Claire. We all know it now. Others started chiming in. You literally used my credit card. Melanie, you still owe me $500. Sarah, are you even going to try to make this right? Jake, Claire snapped. Wow, so this is what you all do? Gang up on me? What kind of friends are you? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Friends? Claire, friends don't manipulate each other. Friends don't steal. Friends don't lie. You did this to yourself. She opened her mouth, then froze. Because Jason? He pulled out his phone. I thought you might say that, he said, then hit play. A recording. Claire's voice came through clear as day. They're so easy to manipulate. All you have to do is act a little sad and they'll throw money at you. The entire table went dead silent. My stomach dropped. I knew she was manipulative, but hearing her say it, that was another level. Claire's face went white. Where the hell did you get that? She hissed. Jason smirked. You talk too much when you drink. You said this at a party a few months ago. Guess I hit record at the right time. Now everyone was staring at her. Sarah shook her head. Wow, we were just playthings to you, huh? Melanie looked on the verge of tears. Jake? He looked disgusted. Claire's entire act, the victimhood, the excuses, the guilt-tripping, shattered in an instant. She had no defense. For the first time in her life, she had no way out. Claire's hands shook as she grabbed her bag. You're all just jealous. You want to see me fail. Jason laughed. No, Claire. We just want you to take responsibility for once in your life. That did it. She screamed. Right there, in the middle of the bar. You're all losers. You'll never be anything without me. And then, she stormed out. Just like that, it was over. No more games. No more lies. Claire was done. Nobody spoke for a full minute. Then Sarah exhaled. Melanie was still staring at the door. I can't believe I let her do this to me. Jason shook his head. I should have called her out sooner. Everyone was processing it in their own way. But me? I just felt free. For the first time since this nightmare started, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I just felt done. And Claire? She never spoke to any of us again. It took time for the group to fully recover. Some friendships were strained. Trust isn't something you can just fix overnight. But in the end, we were better off without her. Looking back, I don't even feel sorry for Claire. She made her choices. She burned her bridges. And now, she's alone. Just like she told me I would be. Funny how that works.